200 years ago, 2,000 years ago. This isn't going to work.
She's picking up a massive object in this video.
Ships that might be cloaked, I can sense them in my vicinity. So I guess I'm just very tuned in.
Vulcan head honcho walks out, ear reveal.
Yeah.
The crowd goes, oh my God, was to protect the secrets from the Air Force that were not out there in the public. So welcome back, everybody. We got another great show for you tonight on Last Night on UFO Twitter. Tonight we're talking to Matt Laslo from Ask A Pol UAPs. I really like this guy's what he's been doing. I've been following a lot of his Twitter and his Substack. You should go check him out. His website is askapolpolitics.com. And usually when we have our show, the starting of the show, we always have Dale from Observer of Anomalous Objects to come up. So I'm going to bring in Twitter here. And Dale is going to just give us a positive message to start us off, because it's pretty negative out there and we like to have sort of a positive message. Dale, take it away, brother. Dale?
We lost him.
No, you got me.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm here, brother. Sorry. Anyway, I wanted to welcome Matt to the space. I kind of feel like we've been hanging out for a while, and 2 podcasts in a week's time. He's my brother from another mother. But hey, there's somebody else here that I want to also point out. My wife's here. She's in the space tonight, and so it's kind of like a family thing. I like to start off with kind of like a catchphrase. This one's not going to be complicated. It's actually pretty simple. It is be thankful. And, that makes a lot of sense since tomorrow is Thanksgiving. For many people, Thanksgiving is food, family, football, and long naps. Really, it's about a 4-day weekend. That's not exactly how it was in the beginning. The Pilgrims in 1621 gave thanks for a successful harvest. The first Thanksgiving was all about being thankful. Thanksgiving is important. I said Thanksgiving is important. No matter where you are in life, you have something to be thankful for. You might have it bad, but someone always has it worse. I said you may have it bad, but someone always has it worse. In fact, I was watching a YouTube video last night, and I was shocked because this 83-year-old man was arrested for robbing a bank. And you think, why in the world would an 83-year-old man rob a bank? Well, it's because he was desperate. All he had to live on was his Social Security. Didn't I say someone has it worse than you? In our UAP community, we have a lot to be thankful for. Let me mention just a few things. We can be thankful for Congress and the UAP hearings. We can be thankful for the whistleblowers and witnesses. We can be thankful for reporters like Matt Laslo, George Knapp, and Christopher Sharp. We can be thankful for UAP, USO filmmakers like Darcy, James Fox, and those that are putting together the series like Investigation Alien on Netflix. We can be thankful for podcasters like Bryce Zabel, Ross Coulthard, George and Jeremy, Matt Ford, and Coast to Coast. And believe it or not, we can even be thankful for news outlets, especially recently with News Nation. The stigma is finally beginning to go away. And of course, last but not least, let's not forget about those who've gone before us. I'm talking about researchers, UAP researchers like Donald Kehoe, Stanton Friedman, J. Allen Hynek, James E. McDonald, Bud Hopkins, and John Mack. And so we have a lot in this community to be thankful for. And so let's make sure that we are thankful. Let's make sure that we are thankful and not thankless.
Thank you so much for that, Dale. I am grateful every week that I get to put together a little show for y'all and just interact with the community and talk to different speakers. And, it's been a long road, this whole UAP subject. It's now UAP. It was UFO when I first started checking it out. And it was very fringe. It was not something that everybody wanted to talk about. And these days, it's still the case, but there is more reporting. There's more mainstream coverage of it. And people like Matt Laslo are heroes to the cause, like to revealing more about this. Look, you talked about desperate, Dale. I'm desperate for more information. And I do feel empathy for people around the world who are desperate. I mean, look at what's going on with Russia. I would say they're desperate for a win, and I really, really hope that doesn't result in some kind of nuclear attack. Nuclear, I don't know. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But anyways, let's bring up Dale. Let's bring up Matt. Matt, you're here. Everybody check out Ask A Pol _UAPs. Subscribe if you haven't. He's really doing some great work. Matt, introduce yourself, man.
Hey. That's a lot more thanks than we ever get here in Washington. But rightfully so, because we're swamp creatures. So that's on us. But hey, pleasure to be with you all on Turkey Day Eve. I'm a political reporter, professor at Johns Hopkins. Been covering Congress and stuff for like 18 years. And then I teach on like history of the media, history on how politicians have used different mediums and the press have used different mediums over time to adapt their rhetoric to the new reality of the new mediums. And then one of my side gigs is askapol.com, which we launched, I guess, just a year and a half ago. But that's where I know many of you from. Y'all are freaking rock stars, and you keep my heartbeat up and my feet walking and running, chasing these lawmakers. I think it was just last year that I interviewed all 100 U.S. senators on David Grush's claims, which Congress has still not addressed. And so, yeah, right before I came on here, I think it was Chris Sharp, but like, they just announced that 60 British troops are being sent over here to the U.S. to help us, the American, nearly $1 trillion a year military, figure out what the heck is flying overhead, specifically over U.S. military and nuclear sites. Yeah, thanks, my friends in the Wall Street Journal, for finally, getting on board and investigating this like a month or so ago. But why do we need the redcoats? And all my British friends out there were like, we need the redcoats to help us out here.
The Tories are coming.
Something's up.
Wild. I mean,
Right.
you are a rock star. You got a bit of a rock star haircut. You rock the tie, but I could tell you're more punk rock about that tie. So
I actually got my start covering music and entertainment. And I say, pardon my French, but I say I know how to deal with asshole politicians from dealing with asshole musicians.
dude, I can imagine it must be like 100 times worse, right? Politicians are polite.
Politicians are worse.
Really?
I'd rather have a raging cokehead singer throwing stuff off the balcony than a politician just staring me straight in the eyes and lying to my face. There's a certain type of cold that can do that.
I love your style though. You're always like camped out, ready to go, just like pounce on them after they've walked out of a hearing or a meeting room. Like, can you walk us through a bit of how you go about staking that snipe interview out, like getting them as they're on the way to their car and stuff like that? Like, do you have a bit of intel? Is Nick Gold, does he have the binoculars out? Is he radioing you? What's going on here?
Well, so I say our job as reporters, political reporters it can be described best as hurry up and wait, but we're professional stalkers. And so like consider the US House of Representatives. That's 435 members, and every different reporter has different beats. Like I, over the years, have covered Congress for a bunch of different local NPR member stations. So like I already have relationships. I know these lawmakers, but in that time I've learned like, oh, there's a vote. The old men, they're going to need the men's restroom on the, like that side of the House chamber. Ladies, there's now a ladies room. Thanks to John Boehner, when he was speaker, he put a ladies room in on the opposite side of the men's room. So, especially the older ladies, boom, if there's a long vote series, they might be popping out there. But then you kind of learn, all right, if it's raining outside, then Senator Booker, who loves to get his exercise and loves walking outside, if it's raining, he's probably going to be coming underground or being dropped off. Senator Gillibrand, every time I take the Senate elevator down, my office, little cubicle is on the Senate side of the Capitol. Whenever I'm taking that elevator down from the third floor to the basement, I always click one, even if other people are on there, and it opens up on one and they look at me like, aren't you leaving? And I go, nope, just doing my Gillibrand check. Because she always gets dropped off on the first floor. And like, just as my last interview in my notebook before Congress gave itself all Thanksgiving week off was a one-on-one with Senate Judiciary Chair Dick Durbin on the pace of judges that Democrats are trying to rush through before Trump takes over in January.
Mm-hmm.
But literally, I had my backpack on, coat on, I was ready to be gone. And then the door opened on one. And there I'm just smiling at Dick Durbin. And I look at him and I go, sir, I'm sorry that you're here. So I got to interview you. I just scored a nice little exclusive with the Senate Majority Whip.
Sniped.
That's so you kind of learn the tricks of the trade.
Yeah.
Like what? For years, like 2-3 years when I worked for KUT, Austin's NPR station. Just Lloyd Doggett, congressman down there, would not talk to the press, just avoided us. I couldn't even find out how he got on the floor. Then the brother broke his foot. And then he had to be wheeled in through the speaker's lobby. And that's where I, smiled a little bit, was nice to him. First time I go up to a lawmaker, I'm not asking questions. I'm introducing myself, mic's at my side, hey, ... and won him over. So like, just last week, Lloyd Doggett comes up to me smiling, hey. I'm like, I got nothing for you because you're about to be the minority. Or no, you are the minority in the House. You don't matter. But yeah, you just treat politicians like humans, even though
they're demigods.
They're not humans.
Oh, they're swamp creatures.
Robotic. And like, that's why I have to remind myself daily, like, I interview 535 liars for a living. Like, there's just, some of them are good people, but there's something about getting elected at that level where you got to sell a little bit of your soul. It seems.
Yeah.
Let me know if any of them haven't, but I don't think I know them.
So you kind of remind me, honestly, a bit like Hoggle from the Labyrinth. You've memorized all these different areas of the Capitol so that you could pounce on politicians and get answers to questions that you want. What do you think's like the hardest Q&A you've ever done? Like, has there ever been a really bad situation where you were like stalking one of your prey and it just didn't go down the way you wanted?
Oh, I mean, have y'all heard this name, Matt Gaetz, in the news a little bit lately? Matt Gaetz, who many of y'all in the UAP community really love him for, him being outspoken on this issue. Well, likewise, Matt Gaetz always loved me for my drug coverage for Playboy, Rolling Stone, ... Like, I think probably Matt Gaetz is like, besides the day he took out former Speaker McCarthy, before that, I think his favorite day in Congress was when Rolling Stone, my story, put AOC and Matt Gaetz, they're like working together on psilocybin. He retweeted it. AOC never retweeted it. He loved it and always wanted to ride her coattails, but no, she wanted nothing to do with him. In part because of all the reporting, some rumors, some not, on Matt Gaetz. Well, so point of the story, and to answer your question, so Daily Beast, I was a contributor a handful of years back, 5 or so. They had a reporter who was doing, like, Gaetz invited some alt-right dude, like neo-Nazi sympathizer, neo-Nazi, whatever the headline was.
Yikes.
Invited him to State of the Union with him. Well, so all these publications start doing Gaetz profiles. And Daily Beast, they had a young reporter up in New York who was doing their profile, but like calling up people he went to law school with, calling up people he did his undergrad with. And like, it was a younger reporter, so Daily Beast tapped me. They're like, hey, can you help this guy out? And also like bring a little texture from Washington. So I was like, yeah, I will bust out my Rolodex. Because I covered Congress for WLRN, which is Miami's NPR station, also WFSU, which was Tallahassee's NPR station, and then a handful in between. So I had a decent Rolodex for Florida sources. Well, so they tapped me for this, and Gaetz doesn't know I'm working on a profile on him. So I'm just standing there kind of eavesdropping when he's being profiled by this GQ writer, this like, I think he was a Brit, but it's just like smartly dressed, just like,
Yeah.
dude, like Gaetz is like, thinks he's the shit. And I hear Gaetz tell the guy, hey, there's 13 publications that are doing profiles on me. And then he says, in the Daily Beast, but I'm avoiding them because I think they're looking for my birth certificate.
Why?
So
Why the birth certificate?
Gaetz, because, well, he just said that, but he's like, I'm getting calls from my law school and undergrad friends who are like, hey, some Daily Beast reporter just called me. So like, he knew.
No idea it's you.
Well, no. So this was the guy in New York. Well, so I'm helping him out with his thing. So I hear from two of my sources, two that I trust, but that I couldn't publish on. And I always go by the rule of 3. I studied to be a pastor, like way back in the day, actually in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. But I go by the rule of 3, biblical or whatever, but it's just a good rule for journalism. If you don't have 3 sources,
it's not a story.
I don't care about your story. Yeah, I just don't care, And so I didn't have enough, but like, because there was those 13 or whatever profiles of Gaetz, Daily Beast was like, no, we don't want to feed any more oxygen to this like prima donna. So like, we're just going to hold it. When something newsy or timely happens, boom, we got this profile. We're just going to drop it then. Well, so it's like 3-4 months, and like me as a freelancer, I'm not getting paid. I did the work, because you don't get paid until you're published. And so, which is ridiculous. Well, so I think I was pretty hungover on a Friday morning, and I was just like, I'm going to go find Matt Gaetz. And there was a House oversight hearing. And so like, I just stand outside of where I know he's going to exit the House Oversight, which is where you all have seen me or gotten all these exclusives on after the Crush hearing, after the November 13th one. So like Gates walks out of House Oversight, and I just
you're hungover.
start walking with him to his office, and I just go, it's like, this is what I had from my sources that I trusted. And actually the Guardian or Miami Herald got it like a year later. But so I just go, hey, Congressman Gates, can you help me out with this? Was it 3 points when you fucked an intern in Tallahassee? Or was it 3 points when you fucked a senator? I forget the numbers because, guys, he was a part of a point system where they literally scored whether they were fucking an intern, House member, lobbyist, or senator. And Miami Herald got that story a year after I had it. I just wasn't there in Florida, so I couldn't like solidify it. Seeing Matt Gaetz turn pale as a ghost and him kind of playing 5-dimensional chess with me, just staring at me like, wait, you don't have it, Laslo. You don't have it. I just want y'all to know that
You had it.
So good that year. I slept so good that year knowing that Matt Gaetz couldn't fucking sleep a wink that year because his own disgusting past was just nipping at his heels.
What kind of point system group is this? The Skull and Boners group or something? Like,
that's actually a good one. Matt Gaetz might give you 4 points.
That was a good joke. Yeah, that was a good joke. Skull and boners.
Jeez, man. So,
dude, but that's where like I'm an uncle times 10. I just want y'all to know, yes, Gaetz is a very politicized name. Do not let him near your wife or children or nieces, nephews, cousins. Like that guy doesn't even trust himself. And he fucking knows it.
Wow, dude.
Anyway,
we could make a documentary about just that encounter and story. That I love it. Dude, I wanted to meet up with you in Washington, D.C. I was over there for the November 13th hearing.
nice. Did you get in?
I actually got in. I was one of the last 3, a Canadian that got in. It was amazing, dude. It was, I loved it completely, soaked up the experience. Interviewed Nick Gold when I was out there. It was great to see him. He's definitely, somehow I look like a giant next to him. But it was amazing. Just the whole atmosphere. I thought it was.
Well, you were wearing your skates, right?
Yeah, I was wearing my rollerblades.
You guys always wear skates, right?
Yeah, of course. So,
too soon.
So, but the November 19th hearings happened, and I heard you were quite hopeful about those. Dale was informing me yesterday. He interviewed you the other day. Can you just tell the crowd here and the KGRA folks, like, why you were hopeful? Like the Arrow hearing with Susan Go, like, man, she looked real bad. Or Goff, whatever.
I know I can't pronounce her name. But wait, real quick. And this actually brings me back to your first question. I think most people on here have seen it, but like yesterday we did a big, what is it? We made a mistake. We made an error. Sorry.
Okay.
My mind just left me. We did a correction. No, we did a huge correction. So that day, November 19th, that hearing was listed as, closed, then open. There's not many classified skiff hearings going on in a week in Congress. It's usually 2 that are kind of scheduled. I think every Tuesday, Intel committee meets, and then kind of Thursday before they head out of town, review stuff. Like, who knows what they do? They just do their Intel stuff. And so in talking to members and staffers, I'm like, hey, I'm going to cover the skiff briefing at 2:30. And so senators and their staffers, and I don't think they were just like messing with me. Like, they tell me like, oh yeah, it's not in the Senate skiff. the one like connected to the Capitol or whatever, they say, oh, it's actually at Senate Hart 219, which is, I just learned this week. There's like, I guess that's where Senate Intel has like a permanent skiff and kind of their meeting room. But like Senate Hart 219, that's the huge auditorium that you all have seen when Ketanji Brown Jackson was being, her nomination hearings for SCOTUS. That's where Scalise had his, Clarence Thomas. Like, that's the room where it's the newest it's the newest Senate office building. So when they made this huge auditorium. Oh, pardon me. That's also where that one staffer, the Cardin staffer, was having a gay sex on camera and got ousted.
My God.
I know.
He did that in the congressional hearing, right? He actually like took out the thing, pictures and all that stuff.
And then he got fired very quickly after. Because when the Kennedys did that, at least they didn't record themselves. But that's an aside.
That would have been so fun for you to cover, right? Like, how outlandish and clownish was that event?
Well, so that's the thing. So I'm standing outside of this hearing room, this like private room next to that huge hearing room. There's an NPR reporter there. There's I believe it's a Russian reporter, but who was covering the Ukraine thing. And so like, I kind of let that guy go first because I was thinking, oh, are they doing as part of this briefing on what Biden just signed off on, those new, allowing Ukraine to bomb Moscow, to use those long range
ballistic missiles
or whatever. Yeah. So I was letting him ask his questions first. And it was weird because senators would tell him no. It wasn't about that. And I was like, wait, usually senators like don't really say no or yes coming out of classified, but they were just like, no. And then I asked a couple like, hey, UAPs come up. Some of them, they didn't toy with me, but they kind of do. Like Senator Langford, who I think is one day going to be, he's a Republican from Oklahoma, so he's probably in the Senate seat for life if he wants it. Like, I'm pretty sure he's going to be chair of that committee,
really
in the next decade. Well, he's so wise. Well, for one, I think both parties kind of want a lifer in that seat.
Okay.
Someone who's like, they don't have to worry about their election, so they don't have to worry about, and it makes sense. They don't have to worry about fundraising from all of the nefarious spots that the party leaders are gladly fundraising from, And so I walked with him to the elevator, and I hadn't talked to him about this issue since Grush. Well, Langford, and I forgot this. He's so wise. He's just letting me tell him what each one of my cards is. So he just keeps letting me talk, even though he's like, yeah, at the end, he's like, yeah, I'm not going to discuss it. But then now that I think back, I'm like, you just wanted to know what hand I was holding. Damn,
wow.
You're smooth, even
clever.
I think he was like, right? I think he was a Baptist minister back in the day. So like, he's working on levels.
Huh. Took his Adderall.
Right? Well, so then we go to the actual hearing. And so turns out there were 2 classified skiff briefings at the same time, both at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on November 19th. And so I've been texting with Joe Cahill. I mispronounced his name. Sorry if I did, brother. But the News Nation guy who you plugged earlier. And I guess he was actually outside of the real one. He says Arrow folks never walked out of there. So the first time he saw the Arrow entourage was with me when we were outside of the Senate Dirksen office building, the room where Gillibrand held that hearing. And, we popped our questions off to him. And I feel bad for Joe because, like, we compared notes. And I was like, there was a lot of senators Well, because there's 6 members of both armed services and intel. Joe and I, we had some of the same names. It was just the biggest cluster. And so I just want to apologize to everyone. This is a reminder to me, my journalism professor self, to not trust one source, 2 sources, or even 3 sources, but to listen to as many voices, and then you might get the info. But yeah I listened to senators, and sorry, that was my mistake.
Wild. So,
yes, sir.
So how are you hopeful about Arrow's investigation and the new director? I guess I'll just point it to you that way.
And so I would only push back and guys, I covered Congress and have for 18 years. I'm not hopeful about anything. When you all, Dale, God bless you, when you were giving thanks, I was grumble, grumble, grumble. I'm stuck here in this sticky swamp. But no, thanks for the reminder to be thankful, because I'm a former homeless cokehead when I was 18, 19. Every day that I'm in the Capitol, I'm I don't belong here.
You're blessed.
That's kind of why I do belong there, because I see through all their BS. But my read on what Gillibrand was attempting to do with that hearing is, guys, I think she's got a big crush on you, and I think y'all keep breaking her heart. Maybe rightfully so, because I know she's broken your hearts. But I remember Gillibrand ran for president. I'm pretty sure her or someone on her staff, I'm pretty sure a younger person on her staff alerted her to, UFO Reddit, where they're hey, man, there's 2.9 million strong here. This is an issue that we have a lane for. But ma'am, and this comes from the DC consultant perspective, but ma'am, you're going to have to navigate between those people in that community and your fellow senators. So you're going to have to walk this tightrope. And I think she's kind of learning, no. You can't walk that tightrope in this space. You're going to get labeled left, right, or center. Shots are going to come. And so,
but half of Congress thinks that it's demons, right? So
I'd say half of Congress hasn't even thought about these issues, even as Langley Air Force Base is shut down for 17 days because of foreign stuff flying overhead. They're ostriches to the worst degree.
What do you make of that response, that press briefing that happened with the DOD guy? Who was it? It was General something, and they just kept asking what are they? How could you not know what the drones are? And he's well, I'm not going to talk about whether it's I can't give away those that information. He just kept saying this, walking in circles around questions that are just basic. Are they Russian, Chinese drones, or are they civilian? It can't be civilian drones, right? And if it's not them, who is it? What did you make of that?
So I didn't catch that, and neither Arrow or the Pentagon have ever invited me to any of their briefings, and nor would I really want to be there, because I can hear your lies and evasions on my screen. I like to look lawmakers in the face when they lie to me.
Okay.
I like them to squirm in my presence. So with that,
what I'm talking about, it was 2 days ago, I think. Somebody, if you want to jump in here, one of the other panel folks, you can maybe inform the crowd who it was, but it was a live White House press briefing, and they were all asking about these airbase incursions, and the guy just would not give up any information whatsoever.
But wait, the scary thing about that is, to answer your question, like, there's a good chance the Pentagon, or pardon me, that layer of the Pentagon, the PR layer, which is very connected to the top brass, but like, there's a good chance they're clueless. You know, the whole question becomes, where are the silos? Because, you know, members of the Congressional UAP caucus came away from the November 13th hearing, you know, listen to our Moskowitz interview at Ask A Pol. He's like, well, you know, he was the one who's like, oh, you can't talk about Fight Club because there's a Fight Club.
Yeah, that was great.
And so that's where the question becomes, and like someone like Nancy Mace or even AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the reason they've been at the table for this issue is because their hunch is nefarious stuff is happening with military industrial complex, i.e. contractors. And so that the curious thing, based on what you're telling me about this Pentagon briefing, we're good on my colleagues for finally now asking about it. But now we're actually leaning on Britain to send 60 experts to help us figure it out.
I saw the post that you put up here. Pentagon.
And that didn't come from me, but I linked to a BBC article. So now I'm like, wait, there's a good chance our folks at the Pentagon, you know, our $1 trillion a year, you know, the folks addicted to our tax dollars, there's a good chance they're clueless, which is pretty freaking unsettling if you really think about it. And like, that's where I pressed Senator Tim Kaine, and we haven't dropped the interview yet, but I talked with Senator Rich. He's the top Republican on Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And like, he was in one of those briefings, and like, I just transcribed it before I hopped on here. And like, there's a there. Cause he's like, Matt, you know, I don't like to talk about this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Well, then I was like, well, Senator Kaine told me this. Oh, so now Senator Rich is listening a little more. And then I divulge a little, and he's like, yeah, I'm just not going to talk about it. But I'm like, wait, guys, the mirror is now shining on you, this Congress. The mirror that, in their minds, the first to hold up was David Grush last summer. We know there's been lots of whistleblowers before that, but David Grush came directly to this Congress, the 118th Congress, and said, hey, you are being lied to. There are hidden programs, these SAPs, within the executive branch, you know, within the broader federal government, and you don't know about them, even though, according to this little thing called the Constitution, all funding comes from Congress. So you're funding them, you don't know them. There's been this like slow awakening amongst lawmakers. And I think like when it comes specifically to these incursions, like the talking points are just out the window. What if we reported it at Ask A Pol this year? You know, just from C-SPAN, we have Senator Kaine pushing heads of Northcom and Southcom publicly on the Langley intrusion. That was back in March. Well, then you had Senator Rounds also bringing it up. You had Senator Kelly, former astronaut, who is the biggest UFO skeptic
debunker.
He's just like, Kelly's just like, nope, they don't exist. So what does Kelly tell us at Ask A Pol? Kelly is 100% convinced that American airspace is kind of daily being intruded by foreign adversaries. Like,
that's a scary thought.
Like, literally take a step back, like, because he's so afraid of like it potentially being this other thing. He just goes to what he knows, and he's like, yeah, it's probably China. And what he said is like, oh, you know, over the counter, Walmart stuff. If they're just buying over-the-counter stuff, why isn't our military shooting a bunch of it down or capturing it in a freaking net? Like, I can take out some Walmart drones. My dad taught me to be a decent pheasant hunter. And so that's where the interesting thing to me isn't so much like informing them, like blah, blah, blah. It's just letting them trip over their own thoughts.
It's like the responses from different layers of the public that are engaging with this topic. So let me ask you a pointed question then. What do you think this phenomenon is? I mean, how long have you really been looking into this? Where did you where did you become a UAP guy?
Well, so to answer your first question, I have a stunted brain because me as a reporter, my sources, or no, pardon me as a proud congressional reporter, my sources are Congress. So again, I interview 535 liars for a living. But again, I'm a professor. My whole MO, because like usually reporters, and like when I first came to DC, I want to like move up the chain, end up on like CNN or blah, blah, blah. After like a year or so, I was like, no, I would never want to work for them. I would have to sell part of my soul. And then, I'd get the $1 million house and a Bentley or whatever they're driving. Like, no, that is not why I'm here.
It's not you.
And yeah. And so like this issue, I first got into it when, gosh, well, so everyone take a step back and remember what me and my colleagues in the media have forgotten. Like the way they tell it, the start of 2023, U.S. airspace was invaded by a balloon. The balloon floated from Montana all the way to South Carolina, and then they shoot it down. Well, in that time, Congress had, because the public was freaked out, they started having these classified briefings. And so I'm like, all right, that's interesting. Well, then they were also having similar briefings about the document stuff. So there was just talk of classified content. And like there was a good bipartisan debate, which Warner was at the table for, along with like Senator Cornyn from Texas, Republican, where they were trying to like overhaul U.S. classification, saying like, yeah, we just overclassify stuff. So like I'm at the table, I'm like, all right, I'm a nerd, like I'm here for this. Well then, don't forget, the U.S. Air Force within like a span of 3 days shoots down 3 foreign objects over U.S. airspace that they just stop. They didn't stop because the objects were no longer there. They stopped because the public freaked out. And senators had to go to another classified skiff briefing about those objects, which, again, I pressed lawmakers, Michigan, Alaska, on and others since then to be like, hey, have you even ever asked to see the photos of what they shot down? No. And so that's where I was like, all right, plot thickened. Well, then just like a month or two later, David Grush, boom, plops on this Congress's lap. Hey, his first claim is like, hey, U.S. government has recovered craft and biologics. Cool. Like, I'm a congressional reporter. That I'm probably never going to prove or disprove that. My sources can because they're Congress. But like, remember Grush's second claim, which made this government and media professor just be like, oh, because Grush's second claim was, hey, Congress, the executive branch is lying to your faces. Literally, there are these hidden SAPs or special access programs that are funded by you, but that are secret from you. And so once that dropped, I was like, all right. And I don't know if people in the community remember it, but like all the other publications, I'm freelance, like all the other publications, like did stories on Grush, initially. And some of the reporters were asking about it like the day of. Well, didn't have a commission, but I'm inquisitive. So I just kept asking folks. And like when I first dropped my piece for Wired Magazine, my only piece on UAP stuff, so many people in the community initially were just like, you know, found me on X, the band formerly called Twitter, and y'all were just dumping on me. And you were just like, oh, this bullshit. Because like, this is a conspiracy theory loving Congress. You know, whether it's anti-vaxxers, ... not to digress, but like, yeah, conspiracies are flourishing in the 118th Congress. So I put this topic within that. And I think it might have been Dean Johnson, but like someone in the community, after like hundreds of people were like, you know,
throwing you under the
like,
bus.
Dude, this isn't fair. Well, dude, Dean Johnson or whoever it was literally took my voice completely out of my piece for Wired and said, hey, UAP community, look at this. Whoever this kid is, he's got he's got 9 different members of the Senate and Congress talking about our issues. Like, we never get this. And then after that, you know, again, I've been retweeted by AOC, retweeted by Matt Gaetz, retweeted by blah, blah, blah.
But not together, right?
Well, exactly. But like, I never see like a huge spike in followers after that. Well, after my voice was ripped out of my piece, and then just my reporting was there, which is kind of a beautiful compliment, even if it hurts. Because I'm a great writer. Like, no, Laslo, shut up. Your subjects are what's interesting. And I probably gained 2,000-3,000 followers. And I was like, all right, this is different. And I already had the URL, Ask A Pol. So I was like, all right, I'm going to deploy it. So that's where I just linked the URL that I owned for a handful of years up to Substack. And yeah, then like hearing from the community, learning, like, y'all are my guides. And like the beauty of Ask A Pol is that Ask A Pol at its best is we're shut up. We might be talking, but it's taking your questions and asking it to your lawmakers. And like, there's so much power to that.
Yeah, it's democracy reporting and journalism, because people are like kind of, they're upvoting all this stuff. Yeah, anybody jump in. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I got a question. So I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Arrow has a contract where they paid services to an anti-whistleblower firm known as Sandcorp back in 2022. And I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on how soft the hearing was for Arrow. I mean, it looked like it was scripted.
Well, and so I think, and I guess this is back to the initial question. I can see, because again, I teach political communications. So like, I've taught a course where I've had a Trump press secretary in there and, you know, a senior admin person for MoveOn.org. So like, first day of class, I would slam the door shut and I say, your fucking politics, stay out there. We're here to just, you know, talk everything else. And so I think what I see from her comm strategy is, because Arrow, like what, Arrow was just birthed in 2022, maybe 2021.
2021, yeah. But they paid. Yeah. The thing is, they paid an anti-whistleblower organization. This organization is very well known. It's known as Sandcorp, and for years they've been used within the DoD to go after whistleblowers within the intelligence community. So the fact that they paid them millions of dollars in a contract that is viewable on U.S. spending. Yeah, go ahead.
Quick, I just learned from Nancy Mace after the November 13th. She's the South Carolina Republican who chaired the House public hearing on the 13th. The Arrow's budget isn't even public. So I'm, you know, before I even engage with that, I'm curious how a Sandcorp contract for an agency within the Pentagon, and like what, the Pentagon just failed their stress test or whatever, their audit for like 4th, 5th year in a row. So I'm curious, and I'm on Signal, I'm on WhatsApp, Matt Laslo at Proton Mail. If you got
Oh yeah.
an answer for this, was classified or whatever, ping me in
No, this is public information.
Yeah.
This is public information.
Matt, if you actually click in the Twitter bubble there, whatever, I think somebody just posted the Sandcorp receipt and the information there. It might have been T.O. Red.
That's from my other account.
Oh, okay. That's from your
But
other
see,
account, Aaron.
But
Thanks.
see, that's where I'm curious. And like maybe Mace was wrong, but like if Arrow's budget isn't public, I'm just curious how. And anyway, one thing I can say is we're in the swamp. We're swamp creatures. So like, even though like what my ex-girlfriend who worked for the Obama White House and is a professor with me at Johns Hopkins, she works for, and this is kind of why we broke up. Oh, so don't tell anyone.
Don't worry, the space is recorded.
She works for fucking
And on the
McKinsey.
radio. So,
Oh, so I should stop swearing.
No,
Me,
no.
folks.
Drop it. It's totally open game
so
here.
So my ex, she works for McKinsey, and like me as someone who's covered drug policy, I'm like, oh, so McKinsey, you all are the ones who helped Purdue Pharma
Oh
kill
gosh.
millions of Americans.
Oh
You
no.
know, and so like that's who McKinsey is, but McKinsey is also
Are they a
this
PR
power
agency?
player, but they're a contractor that
Oh.
they just take baths in millions. It's too opulent for me, so I had to go back to being broke. I had no loan. Sorry.
so money laundering.
Whatever.
Well, no, this is legal money laundering. And
Yeah.
so all these contractors and even like this is like the Washington game. So how big pharma does it is the same way that Raytheon and them do it is when you
DOD.
stretch out your contracts to every district, when you stretch them out and when you diversify your portfolio, that is just your portfolio is just raking in billions from the government. They're always going to have like, look at this, we planted a field over here. Like, oh, we fed children over here. Oh, we're helping with education over here. And then we kill babies over here. you know,
And yeah,
for lack of a better example.
we supplied
And so that's where,
slow release heroin to most of Virginia.
yep. Yeah, which is why we're not together anymore.
Sorry to hear that, man.
Whatever
But
morals,
upwards,
whatever morals I came to this town with, I'm leaving with. But
good, man. Upwards and
I ain't
onwards.
drinking their-
Upwards
I ain't
and
drinking their
onwards.
Kool-Aid.
So
But
let me
real quick-
ask you another
real quick
question
to
real quick.
answer-
Okay, go for
Oh,
it.
pardon me, brother. I just want to, because I've danced around this a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, the Arrow hearing with Gillibrand, I think her big intention, and like, this is not me defending her or whatever, like what she wanted, and I think which would have made her like do somersaults, is she wanted it packed. She wanted all of you all listening and watching because she thought she was answering your questions. And
Really?
I 1000% get that you all think like, well, she flopped, but she was coaching Arrow, you know.
But she was
It seemed the
interviewing.
opposite.
She was
one
like interviewing a
she-
patsy, and there was only one person.
Yeah, no, it seemed like literally Arrow said to Congress that, this is a national security issue and this is how we're going to do this hearing. And then like that's my opinion on it, because it seemed like they were giving softball questions. There was no hardball questions. I mean, they avoided the fact that Grush went to them and said that there was a program within the CIA that's doing crash retrieval. So I mean, like, what was that hearing? Because it seemed like it was just a PR move for Arrow.
Yeah.
But wait, don't forget, after the hearing at Ask A Pol, we broke the news. And again, I think this is where Gillibrand doesn't get the community. But it was after the hearing that she broke the news accidentally to me and us at Ask A Pol that, oh, 2 new whistleblowers have now been talking to Arrow. And like, if you go back and look at that exclusive we had with Gillibrand at Ask A Pol, guys, she kind of admits in there, and to your point, she kind of speaks over her chairwoman self in that hearing, because when we get her after, she's like, hey, we need this community to tell us. She's like, anything that's not in Arrow's book, hey, whistleblowers, if you have a program that's not in that book, ding, 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 tell that to Congress. Because, she's like, we're actively looking for discrepancies, because Gillibrand and Senator Rounds from South Dakota, they're both convinced, even though they passed bills in last year's NDAA to sniff out funding for these SAPs, kind of in line with what Grush was getting at. Even after they passed those amendments intended to sniff them out, both of them this spring were like, yeah, we're convinced that there's still hidden programs from us.
There we go.
So they're kind
There's
of
something,
looking for more and more input,
guys.
because they know that they don't have all of that.
I gotta go to break here. I gotta go to break. I gotta cut to music to go off of KGRA radio, but we're gonna stay in the space. Give me about 40 seconds and we'll continue the conversation. Thanks, guys.
You got 42.
200 years ago, 2,000 years ago. This isn't going to work.
She's picking up a massive object in this video.
Ships that might be cloaked, I can sense them in my vicinity. So I guess I'm just very tuned in.
Vulcan head honcho walks out. Ear reveal.
Yeah.
The crowd goes, oh my God. Was to protect the secrets from the Air Force that were not out there in the public. So